Hello, I'm Dango Rose. Welcome to the Mountaineer Podcast, where everybody's listening. The Mountaineer brings you the latest news of the Peak to Peak region, in print, online, through our podcast, social media, and special publications. Now, listen in to the latest news of the area with our local journalists.
It's easy to burn through the day, living like a stranger from the dust we made. All that time slipping away.
The song that you are currently listening to is called Lost a Life, and it is performed by Brandywine and the Mighty Fines. This particular performance was recorded for week 251 of the series Camera Jams, which you can watch on YouTube. There is a timestamp of this particular performance with the song titled Living My Way about 28 minutes into that version of the video. Brandywine and the Mighty Fines have also uploaded this full set to their YouTube channel, which is also Brandywine and the Mighty Fines. You can find them on Facebook and Instagram under this name as well, and you can check out their website at themightyfines.com. Be sure to stream their first 3 songs wherever you get your music, and be sure to check them out live at Howlin' Wind Brewing very soon. More details coming up later in the podcast.
What's changed? Go to church on Sunday, Lord, I still feel the same. That pain won't kill me, but it won't go away. 'Cause I lost a life living my way. 'Cause I lost a life just living, yeah. Down in the valley there's a choir singing praise.
Hello there, everybody. My name is Jamie Lammers, and welcome to this week's Music of the Mountains, Where to Be and What to See, brought to you by the Mountaineer Podcast. This week, I have got a guest from a band that I've actually been eyeing for a really long time and never actually been able to get on the column. So I'm very grateful to be able to have that perspective from this particular band for this week's episode and for this week's column. I don't think I really have anything additional I need to announce, so let's just jump right into it. Our guest this week, do you mind introducing yourself real quick?
Sure, my name is Brandy Ray. I'm with Brandywine and the Mighty Fines and a couple of other projects. Yeah.
And I hear that Brandywine and the Mighty Fines will be performing at Howlin' Wind Brewing and Blending very soon.
Yes, we can't wait. We love Howlin' Wind. We've known Zach and Melissa for a long time. They're good friends of ours, and we love playing up there.
So I've been doing this music column, Music of the Mountains, for the Mountain Ear for a bit over 3 years now, and I have noticed your name, Brandywine and the Mighty Fines, appear in various shows across the Peak to Peak over that period of time. So I am very excited to actually have you on board for this week's column and podcast. Can you tell us a little bit about how the band began?
Well, fun fact is that we played our first show March 6, 2020, and then 1 week later the world shut down. So we kind of stopped playing for a while after that, and we picked it back up when everything started reopening and started playing more regularly. The first couple years, like the first year, we only booked 1 or 2 gigs because of the pandemic, and then we just did a handful of gigs the following year, and then we just really ramped it up because we were having so much fun.
So, of course, there's you, Brandy, but who else is a member of the band right now?
Yeah, so Matthew Schexnyder and Joshua Ray, who is my husband, and we sort of formed the band when we first started it. And we had a couple of different members when we first started, Emerson Lamm and Lena Dow, and they came on with the original iteration. And we've had a few different people that we've had on bass and fiddle, and now we have drums and things like that. But the three of us have always been sort of the core songwriters in the band. And so right now, the current lineup, we have Gibb on bass, who is an amazing bass player. And then we often play with Neil Mitchell, who plays drums. So we do a dual. Sometimes we play as a string band, and sometimes we play more as like a honky-tonk country grass band with the full drums. We'll often have a fiddle player or dobro or some other instrumentation with us.
So, to credit everybody who has been or is currently a part of the band, let me sum up the roles of everybody here. As Brandy already mentioned, Gibb plays bass and Neil Mitchell plays drums, and in previous iterations of the band, Emerson Lamm contributed banjo and Lena Dow contributed bass and vocals. Maya Fabrikant has also often contributed to the band as a vocalist and a fiddle player. As Brandy mentioned, however, the three primary members of the band that have always stuck around since the band's inception are Brandy Ray on mandolin and vocals, Joshua Ray on guitar and vocals, and Matthew Schexnyder also on guitar and vocals. All three of these members also serve as the primary songwriters. As a group, had you all performed together in other projects before?
No, I learned to play mandolin about a year before we started the band. And I mean, that was like my very first foray into any kind of stringed instrument. Really didn't play a lot of instruments growing up. I was in band for a couple of years and played flute when I was very young. But Josh bought me a mandolin for our 10th anniversary, and I just fell in love with it and went nuts. And then now we're doing this thing.
So then I'm curious, Brandy. What is your musical background in general?
I mean, that kind of is my musical background. So I played flute for a couple years between 4th and 7th grade. I grew up doing a lot of theater, and sometimes it was musical theater, but I grew up in a very small town where we didn't have choir. There weren't a lot of options outside of playing in the marching band to explore music. And then I took like 1 year of piano in college just casually because I was interested in learning about it. And that actually helped me understand a lot about music theory. But then I didn't really have any other experiences until I picked up the mandolin, and I started doing some ensemble group classes at Harmony House in Boulder, Robbie Loeb's place, and that's where we met Matthew and Lena and Emerson, actually. And after doing a couple of ensemble classes, we started doing some open mic nights. The first open mic night we did, we were offered our first gig, so we kind of just peeled off and made the band.
Do you know anything about the other band members' backgrounds in music, out of curiosity?
Sure. So Matthew and Josh have been playing guitar for a very long time. Josh was in a couple of bands and projects when he was in high school and college. I know Matthew performed a little bit, but I don't know if he was in a band before the Mighty Finds. And then Joe, our bass player, he studied bass at Berkeley. So we have some strong musical background between all of us. And I just grew up always loving to sing, and I always did that. And I always wrote songs. So we just kind of melded it all together.
So what were the big factors that really contributed to you deciding to fully commit yourself to performing music and truly pursuing it? I assume Joshua was a huge factor in all of this.
Well, I'm a big hippie, and I've been going to festivals and going to be at different music events for most of my adult life. And I think I've always really enjoyed music, and I've always been really drawn to music and had a lot of musicality despite having little opportunity to pursue that. And so I think after seeing that for so many years of us being together, when he bought me the mandolin, he was like, I just feel like you were made for this, and it's going to be a great opportunity for you to explore music and musical expression. And he was right. And so him buying that was really the impetus for me becoming a musician as an adult.
Is there a particular style of music that the band has focused on in regards to songwriting and performance?
What a great question. I like to say we're genre fluid because we started as a bluegrass band, but we didn't really play traditional bluegrass per se. Not to say we won't cover some Bill Monroe or do some traditional bluegrass, but a lot of us come from the country and grew up in really small rural towns. So we have a lot of influences in country music, and I have a really twangy sound. And over the years, we just turned it into what we call country grass or twang grass, where it kind of melds a lot of Americana and roots music with bluegrass and country to create that kind of sound.
Do you feel that, especially when it comes to your songwriting, the sound of the band has evolved over the years?
It's definitely evolved, and I would say one of the beautiful things about having three songwriters in the group is that there's some variety in terms of the types of songs that you'll hear. I call Matthew our poet laureate. He writes a lot of very well-composed, I would call them Americana songs that are kind of similar to like a Jason Isbell style. And then Josh writes these really beautiful nostalgic songs about experiences from his life. And I tend to write the songs that are a little bit more, they're not traditional in how you might hear them per se, but they have more traditional themes. Like I write a lot of murder ballads and a lot of songs that go into the vein of country, folk, and bluegrass music.
Okay, hang on a second. I have to stop you right there. Did I just hear that right? Murder ballads?
Oh, yes. You know, there's a strong tradition in like old folk and roots music, specifically bluegrass, around murder ballads. And generally speaking, in the traditional murder ballad, some guy courts some girl and for whatever reason takes her to the river and only one person comes back, and it is typically not the girl. So I like to write a lot of murder ballads that flip that narrative on its head. And usually the girl is the one who comes back in mine.
I thought that this was a really cool twist on an apparently traditional style. I had no idea that this kind of song even existed.
Oh, yes. No Dreadful Wind and Rain or Down in the Willow Garden or any of those kinds of songs.
Of course, Brandy just cited some classic examples of the murder ballad, but I have to be completely honest. The first thing that came to my mind when I heard her describe what a murder ballad was Maxwell's Silver Hammer, the upbeat comedy song by the Beatles from their iconic album Abbey Road. Do you feel, Brandy, that this song in particular counts as a more modern murder ballad?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. I'd have to listen to the lyrics.
And I assume you have heard the song in the past.
I have heard it, but I couldn't quote it for you right now.
So for those who don't remember or that haven't listened to Maxwell's Silver Hammer before, the premise of the song goes something like this. The first verse centers around a girl who really loves science who is asked out by a guy from her school. This guy then ends up coming over to her house to kill her with his silver hammer. The second verse follows this same guy as he kills his teacher, and the third verse follows him after he is arrested as he kills the judge with the hammer.
Yeah, what's crazy is that I've heard that song so many times, and I don't know that I've really paid attention to the lyrics that closely. Maybe that's a serial killer ballad.
By the way, I will say this. Wikipedia has a list of murder ballads available on their site, and Maxwell's Silver Hammer is included in that list, so I like to think it's a modern twist. Brandy also added that the serial killer ballad could be a new style of murder ballad. Unfortunately, I laughed at this particular point, and it overwhelmed her statement there, so I wanted to add that in after the fact. But yeah, sorry for that random tangent, Brandy. I just wanted to ask what your thoughts on that were.
I like this question, and I think that what's funny about that is that in the bluegrass world, a lot of the murder ballads, they are written very majory. They sound very happy. If you don't really pay attention to the lyrics, you don't know how twisted they are. And then when you really pay attention, you're like, wow, yikes.
But okay, so you write more traditional folk songs, including these murder ballads. How do you, Josh, and Matthew all contribute to the songwriting process? Do you write songs together? Do you write songs individually? What's the contribution of each of you here?
We all kind of write in different ways, and I would say most of us have a fairly independent writing style to start, and then we will bring songs when they're in a draft form to the group, and we will collaborate on arrangements and different ideas and parts. And it's been pretty organic like that for the most part. part. I think we all have a lot of respect for each other's creative and artistic expression, and we both like to enhance what everyone is doing, but we also are very celebratory of the work and art that people are putting together. So I often will have Matthew or Josh give me feedback on songs that I'm writing, but often it's just a very organic process where we'll bring ideas to the group, bring different song structures, and then they evolve into band arrangements as we get more comfortable playing them and trying different things with them.
In regards to other projects that you guys have done outside of Brandywine and the Mighty Fines, what do some of them include?
So I also help co-lead the Colorado Estro Jam, and so once a month we'll do a monthly women's pick and teach other women how to enter the jam scene in our area and teach them the etiquette, and that's super rewarding. We have a spin-off project called Mighty Holler with my best friend El Michelle, and Josh is in that project too, and Joe is El Michelle's husband, so he plays with us as well, and so we have a couple of couples that will play together around town from time to time. And then I also help co-produce the Boulder County Jingle Jam every year with a good friend of mine, Tom Buswell, and we do a big charity event for Sister Carmen, and that's going to be on December 14th this year. Last year we had over 50 local Americana, bluegrass, and country musicians who were part of that bill. We get some pretty great musicians who are part of that. Pete Wernick from Hot Rise often joins us, members of the Fratliners, and then several just musicians from around town, some of the people from Pick and Howl, and a lot of good friends of ours who come together to support the community participate in that.
Well, well, well. I knew the name Pete Warnick sounded familiar when I was doing research for the previous episode of the podcast. As Brandy just mentioned, Pete is a member of Hot Rise, which also includes a man by the name of Tim O'Brien. He is a Grammy Award-winning bluegrass musician who happens to be the brother of Molly O'Brien. She's performing with her husband Rich Moore at the Gold Hill Inn very soon, and I just brought both of them back for a podcast episode. So be sure to check out the previous episode of the podcast if you want to hear more from Molly O'Brien and Rich Moore. So I assume it wasn't until you really started diving into the mandolin that you also started diving into performing live.
That is correct. Yeah.
Since you really started dedicating yourself to performing live, what have been some of your favorite aspects of doing so?
I think that for me, I really love the exchange of energy between the performer and the audience. I just think there's something beautiful about music that brings us all together. I think we would all say that there's a connection to it. It's a great way to experience emotion and to sort of place yourself in a narrative that so many people can relate to when you really hear a song that connects to you. And I think, Matthew and Josh are so good at writing those kinds of songs. You can really see people feel the emotion of them whenever they're performing. And for me, I just love to perform. I love the energy of it. The running joke is that they'll come up and sing these beautiful songs to people, and then I just kind of wail at them and really belt super loud. I joke that I just yell at people on stage, but I really just enjoy that component of being on stage with a group of musicians that I really respect and appreciate and have a great relationship with. And I love the exchange that you get within that group of people and also the exchange that you get between the performers and the audience. I think that's really special, and I think that's what draws people to music. So I feel really grateful to be part of that. And I think that I don't want to speak for everyone else, but I feel like they might say that too. Like Matthew does a lot of songwriting projects on his own and things like that too, and I think he really appreciates that kind of stuff. And I know Josh has been exploring a lot of his own songwriting, creative energy as well.
And is there anything that you hope audience members will be able to take away from your shows when they come and see you?
Ooh, what a great question. I hope that when people come to our shows that they have at least one song that they related to, and I hope that they feel entertained. And I feel like so many times we pursue going to see music or events like that as an escape or as an opportunity to do something really fun or enjoyable and joyful. And I hope that when they leave, they feel that way, that it was time well spent and that they got something out of it. And I hope that they feel connected to us on a deeper level. I also also would say I'm a fairly progressive person, but I play a lot of roots music. So I like the idea that maybe that kind of music can be seen through a lens that maybe not everyone approaches it with.
So I'm very curious about the origin of the name, Brandywine and the Mighty Fines. Clearly, Brandywine is a play on your name, Brandy, but where did the Mighty Fines come from?
Oh, well, whenever we would play together casually, like, because we kind of just started as a group of friends who would come together and play music and jam together. And I would just always joke because I was always the most novice of the players. And I always thought it was funny to say, oh, yeah, and when we form our band, Brandywine and the Mighty Fines, I am a writer by trade. That's what my undergraduate degree is actually in journalism. And I used to do what you do. And so I've always liked playing with words. And I just thought I liked the way it rolled off the tongue. But it was really meant to be a joke. I didn't mean for the band to be named that, and it just kind of stuck. And so, hot tip, if you form a band, you might not want to put your name in it.
This reminded me a lot of the story behind the Foo Fighters. Dave Grohl originally named his project Foo Fighters after a World War II term for unidentified flying objects that were spotted in the European and Pacific theaters, and he intended this to be a temporary name that allowed people to think that it was more people playing the songs than just him. He created the Foo Fighters as the debut album in 1994, essentially by himself over the course of 6 days. It drew interest, and he ended up getting band members together, and unfortunately for him, the band name ended up sticking. So it goes to show that sometimes you have to be careful with what you name your band if you don't want that kind of name to stick.
I didn't know what I didn't know. It was my first go around, and it's worked. Like, people seem to like the name. It's quite a mouthful. I'm always like, there have been a couple of times where people have had to put it on a marquee, and I always feel really bad for those people.
At the same time, though, it's interesting hearing about a lot of these band names in retrospect when some of these members say that they don't particularly like the name, because a lot of times audience members really connect with the name and really enjoy the story behind it, even if the band members don't necessarily think it's a great name. And personally, even though it is a longer name, I think Brandywine and the Mighty Fines is a really cool rhythmic and slightly rhyming title, and I think it really suits the band overall. There's one more aspect about the name that I want to get back to in just a second, but before that, you just mentioned that you were a writer by trade and graduated with a degree in journalism. So, with a prior focus in journalism and in other forms of creative writing perhaps, was the transition easy or difficult between more journalistic forms of writing and more lyrical forms of writing?
I think that it wasn't a difficult transition because I always loved poetry and creative writing growing up, and I studied a lot of that too. I think that it has definitely influenced my songwriting. I told you that I tend to write the more traditional bluegrass and or country songs in terms of the type of content. But I would also say that I tend to write like a storyteller. Often in my songs, there are characters that are living out stories that I have imagined or read about, or sometimes I'll read books and then write a song about a character in a book. Sometimes I'm the character, or parts of me are a character, or parts of people I know. So I'd say just the storytelling aspect really is the theme that crosses over between my former life as a writer and my life now as a songwriter.
So what I'm hearing is essentially that it's just another notch in your tool belt for what you can do as a writer.
Yeah. And I was a teacher for 8 years too and taught writing. So I've gotten to explore writing in a lot of different genres, and I think that that helps inform. I've always believed like teach the writer, not the writing, and you can take all those tools through whatever kind of writing that you lean into.
Okay, getting back to the name really quickly. There's one more aspect that I wanted to talk about. The fact that your name, Brandywine, is separated from the other band members, the Mighty Fines, and emphasized as the first name. This seems to put you in a band leader position of sorts. Was that intentional?
Oh, I wish everyone else was on the call now so they could answer this question for you. I would say, so I am for sure the most extroverted person in our configuration. And I think by nature, that makes me, I'm the one who's most comfortable being the center of attention and like filling that role of every band. Well, I say this, not every band has to have a front person per se, but a lot of times you are drawn to one person in the band's energy or things like that. And for sure, different people are going to be drawn to different people in our band, but I would say that I focus, or I kind of am the front person person in a sense, to the extent that you can be that in a band where multiple people sing and write songs and things like that. And that's mostly just because I tend to be the most extroverted person on stage, I think. And we've kind of formed the identity around that. I think that that was on purpose, very early on when we did an open mic night and Matthew and Josh and I were kind of talking about what that was going to look like. Matthew was actually the one who noted that when I sang, people tended to respond to that and that maybe we should craft around that centralization. On the back end, I'm also very gregarious. I network a lot. I like to support lots of different endeavors in the music community, lots of community events and things like that. And so I'm pretty active in the Colorado Bluegrass Music Society. I do the Estro Jam. I go to lots of things and try to be part of lots of things and support other bands and that kind of thing. And I think that has sort of naturally positioned me on the back end to be the person who does a lot of the band management pieces. So I think in that sense, a lot of people would say that everyone contributes and everyone is a really active part of the group, but that I probably do the primary management of the band.
And something else just hit me as something that I was curious about. At this point, you've been able to dive more into the mandolin, but singing was always something that it sounds like you were interested in. And so how long have you really focused on singing as performing? Did you dive into it more seriously around the same time that you dove into mandolin?
Yeah, so I didn't have formal training as a vocalist, but I did grow up singing. I was in musical theater. I have an aunt who was a vocalist in college and things like there was just a lot of music around my family and my house, and not in a very formalized way, but it was just very, people sang, people listened to music. We would blare Stevie Nicks or Heart or whatever my mom was listening to at that time, Pat Benatar, and I just kind of grew up learning to sing with all those incredible classic rock women and then a lot of country women too. And I love to do it. And it's something that I have a lot of passion for. So I have done a lot of vocal work since starting the band, but I kind of just did it when we first started and it tended to work well. And I definitely have grown as a vocalist over the course of our endeavors. But yeah, it was like an untrained thing that I was just throwing into the world, which was very vulnerable and made me really nervous when I first started playing, for sure.
So to clarify, have you ended up going into formal training as you've gone on to be a musician more, or have you just continued moving forward with the experience that you already have?
I have done I've done vocals at Rocky Grass Academy, and I've done some harmony work with some different musicians in the area. I do a lot of vocal things online and that kind of thing. So I definitely would say that I have done a fair amount of independent study in the vocals world since starting, and a big part of that focus has been on harmony work because I was always a fairly adept lead singer. Obviously, the longer you sing, the more you learn about what your vocal capacity is and what you can and can't do with your voice and how to do it in a way that's going to take care of your vocal cords. But the bigger thing was I didn't know anything about harmonizing or singing with other people. So that's really where I've spent a lot of time trying to develop my craft, because I really think that there's something almost like a soul-to-soul connection when you get to sing with other people. And I really want to be able to do that. And I love being able to do it when I have the opportunity. So it's something that I always am working to develop more and more skills around.
Okay, I think I have one more big question off the top of my head before we start to wrap up. In regards to your performance history, what have you found in regards to the kinds of performances you prefer? Have you performed solo? Do you prefer performing with groups or on your own? Are there pros and cons to both? How have your performance preferences evolved over the years?
That's a great question. I feel really honored to get to have developed so many of my skills playing with a group of people who I really trust and feel safe with. I think that's a really special thing that not everyone gets. And so first and foremost, I really appreciate the growth that playing with Josh and Matthew and the other members of our band has afforded me, and the space that they've given me to explore different parts of my musical identity and different skills that I've had. And I would say in the bluegrass world, at least in our community, I sort of came to everything backwards, because most of the time people meet each other at bluegrass jams or things like that, and then they form relationships, and then they form a band. Where I had been performing in a band before I ever went to a jam or any kind of community event for musicians. I'd already been in a band for about a year when I met all of those people. So it was an exciting and energizing opportunity to realize that there was this whole community of musicians out there that I could learn from and grow with and develop friendships and connections to. And that has been a really awesome experience, because I just feel like I've learned so much from so many different people, and I've had so many great opportunities because of just the community that the music arena in our area has afforded. And that's been so delightful. And I think that a lot of the other members of our band would say the same thing. Matthew does a lot of singer-songwriter stuff. Josh loves to do a lot of country stuff. Neil does a lot of country stuff. Joe plays in a couple different projects. And so that's a really great opportunity to get to lean into all kinds of creative endeavors. As far as playing solo or with a group goes, I do a lot of duos and trios, and then I do a lot of different full band projects too, or even just one-off collaborations where we'll do like a country night with a group of musicians, or I've sat in with Derek Dames-Ole on his John Prine shows or things like that. But you probably don't want a 2-hour mandolin solo show. So I usually do perform with at least one other person, because mandolin's my primary instrument, and it's nice to have at least a guitar backing you up or another chordal instrument.
Okay, sorry. Another random tangent. Derek Dames-Ole performs John Prine tribute shows?
Oh, yeah, you should come. Derek does a John Prine tribute show, and a big group of his musician friends will come together and do a whole set of John Prine tunes, and it's a really fun time.
I cut out a small portion of that particular segment where Zoom ended up cutting Brandy off about how often Derek performs these tribute shows. Does he perform them weekly at all?
No, not weekly. He usually does it annually, although there have been times where he's done more than one show a year.
I gotta mention this. Derek is the only person I have interviewed for Music of the Mountains, both the column and the podcast, twice. And this did not come up in either of those interviews. So that took me a bit by surprise today.
Well, you got to get to one of the John Prine tribute shows.
If you want to hear more from Derek Dames-Ole and his own journey as a musician, then he is on 2 separate episodes of the podcast. He's on episode 55, which was aired on June 2nd, 2022, and he is also in retrospective episode 5, which was broadcast on August 7th, 2024. So be sure to check out both of those episodes if you want to hear more from him. But yeah, I don't know. Is there anything else about Brandywine and the Mighty Fines coming up that you want to mention? I assume that this is not even close to your last time performing in the Peak to Peak area.
I surely hope not. I love the Peak to Peak area and love coming up to the mountains to play, and I imagine that we'll still keep coming up for however long. Yeah, we hope people come out to Howlin' Wind. We love Howlin' Wind, such a great spot. It's also going to be like when the Haunted Stage Stop is happening, which we've been part of before, so it's always a fun time to combine that. We'll do some fun spooky season inspired songs. That'll be a good time. We have some other stuff coming up too. We're playing a festival in Estes Park on November 2nd. It's going to be a really fun time. Deer Creek Sharpshooters, Woodbelly, El Michelle's Grateful Holler, Ragged Union. Lots of great bands on the lineup. It's a spirits and bluegrass festival. And then we've got Lafayette Music Fest on October 5th that we're playing. It's going to be a really fun time. There's over 40 bands playing at 9 different venues in Lafayette. Then we're going to do some country shows down in Denver at Two Moons. The next one is next week on Thursday, October 3rd, and those are free, so they'll be really fun shows. Yeah, and we're just excited. We haven't gotten to play a lot in the Front Range since we just got back from Germany, so we're excited to play around our home area again. We hope people come out and say hey, because we miss y'all.
Whoa, you went to Germany? What'd you guys travel there for?
We played some shows. So we played a small bluegrass festival outside of Munich, and then we played a couple of venues in Prague, and we drove around Germany and played several country and bluegrass. They do it differently there. They have a lot of country and bluegrass organizations where members pay dues, and then people come out and support different artists that are traveling through, and or different local artists that play in the country and bluegrass vein. And so we had some really delightful opportunities to go play in the Czech Republic and in Germany, and we made many great friends, and it was a lovely, lovely experience.
Oh, And are there any songs that people can check out at this point before they come to your show?
Yeah, so we have a few songs on Spotify from our earlier days, and then we're working with Davey Diamond up in Lyons, and we recently did a couple recordings with him, so we're hoping to release that very soon.
Fantastic. Well, I think those are all the big questions on my end.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat, Jamie.
Thank you so much to Brandy for coming on board and joining us for the podcast. It was an honor having her here. I was hoping to have other members from the band join us for this particular conversation, but due to scheduling mishaps that were in no way the fault of any members of the band, that responsibility lies solely on me. I was unable to get other members on board for the podcast. So sorry about that, but who knows? Maybe we'll have them back on for the podcast and we'll have more members of the band join us. In the meantime, if you want to learn more about the band as a whole and what they're up to, then be sure to find them on Facebook and Instagram and view some of their live performances on their YouTube channel. 3 songs from their early days, Wanderin' of My Dreams, Ball and Chain, and Where the Willow Never Weeps, are available wherever you get your music. And these early songs feature contributions from the early members of the band, Emerson Lamm and Lena Dow. Also be sure to check out the band at their website at themightyfinds.com, and be sure to check out the spin-off group with Brandy, Joshua, Joe, and Joe's wife, Elle Michelle, on vocals and banjo, as well as with contribution as a songwriter, by going to their website at Mighty Holler, that's MIGHTYHOLLER.com. And finally, be sure to check out Brandywine and the Mighty Finds performing live at Howlin' Wind Brewing and Blending, located at 51A Main Street in Rollinsville, on Saturday, October 12th, 2024, starting at 5 p.m. And now, for this week's Music Mentions. Head to the Gold Hill Inn, located at 401 Main Street in Gold Hill, on Friday, October 11th, starting at 8 p.m. to see Tonewood String Band performing live, and on Sunday, October 13th, starting at 7 p.m. to see Molly O'Brien and Rich Moore performing live with the opening band Lucy Moore and the Night Children. Head to Howlin' Wind Brewing, located at 51A Main Street in Rollinsville, on Saturday, October 12th, starting at 5 p.m. to see Brandywine and the Mighty Finds performing live. Head to the Jamestown Mercantile, located at 108 Main Street in Jamestown, on Wednesday, October 9th, starting at 5 p.m. for an open mic night, on Thursday, October 10th, starting at 7 p.m. to see Paul DeHaven and the Patrick Deathlefts duo performing live, and on Friday, October 11th, starting at 7 p.m. to see Derek Dames Ole performing live. Head to Knotted Root Brewing, located at 250 North Caribou Street in Netherland, every Friday at 7 p.m. for a DJ night, every second Friday at 7:30 p.m. for a reggae DJ night, and every Sunday at 5 p.m. for Jazz Sundays. Head to the Caribou Room, located at 55 Indian Peaks Drive in Netherland, for 2 nights featuring Wookie Foot with AMAC and The Height. On Friday, October 11th, and on Saturday, October 12th, there will be 2 nights of these performances. Doors open and dinner starts at 7 p.m., and the show starts at 8 p.m. And finally, pick your preference. If you want to head to Gilpin County, then be sure to head to the Very Nice Brewing Company location, located at 180 Jankowski Drive in Blackhawk, on Friday, October 11th, starting at 6 p.m. to see Eric Stone performing live, and on Saturday, October 12th, starting at 5 p.m. to see the Kirk Larson Trio performing live. If you would prefer to head to Netherland, then be sure to head to the Very Nice Brewing Company location at 20 East Lakeview Drive, number 112, located in the Caribou Village Shopping Center, on Friday, October 11th, starting at 6 p.m. to see David Tillman performing live, and on Saturday, October 12th, starting at 5 p.m. to see Jesse McLean performing live. Did we miss you or any of your performances? Do you want to submit your music listing in the Peak to Peak area? Do you have updates to your business or to your performances? Please call the Mountaineer at 303-810-5409, email them at info@themountaineer.com, or email the podcast or other media at media@themountaineer.com to be included in the next print edition or the next podcast of The Mountain Ear. Thank you so much to everybody who tuned in to this week's Music of the Mountains, Where to Be and What to See, brought to you by the Mountaineer Podcast. We'll be back on Monday with our regularly scheduled guest correspondent episode of our Miscellaneous Mondays. In the meantime, if you enjoyed this episode and want to share this or others around with whoever you see fit, then be sure to head to the mtnearpodcast.buzzsprout.com or to the mtnear.com/the-mountain-ear-podcast to share these episodes around. And if you are a member of the Peak to Peak area, or you're coming to the Peak to Peak area very soon, and you would like to contribute to the podcast in any way, you want to be interviewed, you want to contribute a segment or a story, you have advertising that you want us to share, anything along those lines, then be sure to email me at media@themountaineer.com and we'll get something sorted for you. I will see you guys on Monday with our regularly scheduled Miscellaneous Monday edition of the Mountaineer Podcast. Have a great rest of your day!
1, 2, 3, 4. Us both got a claim onto my name. Daddy won't outlive my mama in chains. Still I learned how to sling 2 guns, and I'm not gonna burn for the shooting that I've done. Robbed a bank way up in the Cumberland Gap. I was tired of picking cotton, tired of swinging an axe, but sheriff coming down at Swallows Hill.
The song that you are currently listening to is called Made My Own Way, and it is performed by Brandywine and the Mighty Fines. This particular performance was recorded in October of 2023 for week 251 of the YouTube series Camera Jams. They have uploaded this full performance to that YouTube channel, and you can check out that song in a timestamp labeled No Tree about 42 minutes into that video. You can also check out the full set on Brandywine and the Mighty Fines YouTube channel, which is, of course, Brandywine and the Mighty Fines. They are also under that name on Facebook, Instagram, and wherever you get your music for the first 3 songs of their career. If you want to learn more about them as a band, be sure to head to their website at themightyfines.com. And if you want to see them performing live, then be sure to head to Howlin' Wind Brewing, located at 51A Main Street in Rollinsville, on Saturday, October 12th.
In my face for I could know. He said, girl, what is your name? Is it Brandy Lee, and did you shoot Sheriff James? 'Cause I'm his brother and you gotta understand, must avenge his death, that's the duty of a man. Made my own way. Woman in this world, gotta shake, gotta take, gotta claim. No one's gonna hang me on no tree. Woman in this world, gotta fight, she'll never be free.
And that's it for our show. Subscribe online to get more access to more news, weekly updates to our community calendar, and a link to our YouTube channel by visiting themountaineer.com. Be sure to use the coupon code PODCAST when subscribing for a 10% discount, only available to our listeners. If you are in the local Peak to Peak area, be sure to pick up a print edition of The Mountaineer at a local business. I'm Dango Rose. Thank you for listening.